Be sure and tell him Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We rented movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feedback bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Tennis Podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about movies that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Tea Day.
There were like Thanksgiving songs you could rattle off.
It's Tea Day. It's Tea Day. Oh, you mean like not Sweetie original, real songs?
I mean, we should make some. But that's a damn shame. There's no like legit
It's really a missing
songs.
Market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should write some. We're such good lyricists I've discovered in the last couple of years.
Or songwriters, yeah.
Yeah. So happy Thanksgiving week, guys. We are coming at you live. Well, it won't be live tomorrow, but from Carol's basement. Which, if you have been a regular listener of this podcast over the years, we are in Carol's basement around this time every year, and we've done a couple good hits. We were listening in the car on the way down, so we love doing it at Carol's house. Good acoustics down here, I do say. And we are coming at you finally, though. You know, we've done a couple movies during this Thanksgiving times. But we are covering a legit Thanksgiving classic, which there really aren't
Maybe
that many.
the only Thanksgiving Day classic of all the movies.
Someone else brought one up recently, and now I'm blanking on what it is. But I agree. It's, well, if anything, it's the only Thanksgiving movie you need.
It's the only movie that takes place, I feel like, solely on like the Thanksgiving Day week or whatever. Other movies, like You've Got Mail, have like a scene where there's a brief... someone mentions Thanksgiving, but it's not like the whole movie revolves around getting to Thanksgiving or having Thanksgiving.
That's so funny you bring that up, because literally all week I've been saying in my head,
Happy Thanksgiving back.
It is a nonstop circle, and I was like, I need to see that movie and just release the demon. So finally, and here's a little story about this movie. So we've planned to
Did we say what it is yet?
No. I'm coming to it.
Wow, it's a real nail biter.
We plan to do it every year. And so we drive down to Carol's, and it's really not that far from where we live in Boston because of traffic, whatever. We always get here so late. And then we don't have time to watch the movie and do the podcast. So we're like, screw it. And then we do like something else, or we do something later.
Or we don't do it. Yeah.
Or we don't do it at all. So, third year of the podcast, we finally got to this gem of a film. It is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Funny story. I thought it was Trains, Planes, and Automobiles for years.
You know what? It's
to
hard.
the point, look at my notes.
You wrote it on your notes. That's how you wrote it. I have to check every time because I don't know. Well, and they're so similar, and it's a rude title.
But you know how you remember it?
Because it's the order in that they happen.
Which is like, why didn't I think of that?
But it's only if you have seen the movie recently and can remember that.
Right, definitely. But for some reason, Trains just rolls off my tongue first. I don't know. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987. Directed by...
John Hughes.
Written by...
John Hughes.
So this is a John Hughes movie that I often forget is a John Hughes movie. When you watch it, you're like, duh, because it has John Hughes written all over it. But it's not one of the ones you like think of in his...
the Brat Pack.
Yeah, the Brat Pack ones.
Yeah, I think he's gotten looped... maybe unfairly with the Brat Pack, but he's really so much more because if you think about Home Alone with Chris Columbus, but written by him.
My favorite movies of his are not the Brat Pack ones by any means.
No, and they're just ones that people don't even freaking realize are John Hughes. Is Ferris?
Yeah,
did we have this discussion last time? Okay, yeah. So it's not just the Brat Pack, folks. It's not just the Brat Pack, but this is a classic. John Candy, Jimmy John Candy. John.
What did I call him today? Jim Candy?
No. It was
like
Jack
Candy?
or something. It was so weird.
I called him Jack Candy on the way down. I apologize.
He could have gone by that. I feel like if you have a J name, you're like, no, Jim Candy. I think he's like Jim Candy. Jim Candy.
Well, if
like
your name...
Jim Dandy?
Which always confused me. The nickname for John is Jack.
Right.
That's why
Which
I was
is,
like,
I was
that's
always
why
like,
maybe
what?
he
Those
thought-
are two
so he
different
probably
names,
did
and
go
that's
by
like a
Jack.
bullshit thing.
Jack's just like anybody that has
Hey,
a J name.
Jacko.
It's like, hey,
Yeah,
Jack.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm just making that up. But yeah, John Candy, bless his heart, bless
So
his
good.
soul. I have thoughts on his makeup, but hair and makeup, but we'll get to that. But he's the sweetest, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is a classic John Candy is an oaf kind of movie, right?
Right, like sweet, naive oaf. We'll discuss whether he's naive or not. I think he's really a con man. But yeah, amazing portrayal. And his favorite film he ever did,
Wow.
according to himself.
Cool.
You know whose favorite film of theirs was also this movie? Is that correct English? I am not sure.
Steve Martin?
Steve Martin, also his favorite
Wow.
film of his
Why?
his body of work.
Did they say why?
You know what? I don't know. Was it the cleverness and the interesting dynamic of this movie? Was it the co-star that they had?
Probably.
Interesting. The trivia is pretty chock full in this one. Apparently, you can't get much from John Candy anymore because he's dead, but most of it was stuff that Steve Martin has said like through the years. And he said that he got the script for this and it was like 150 pages long or something crazy, which for a comedy is very long. Usually they're about 90 pages. And he met with John Hughes and he was like, this is great. Are you going to trim this down a little bit? It's really long. And John Hughes was like, why would I do that? Like, this is awesome. This is exactly what I want. So whether they, it's not long though. It's only an hour and a half. So
Okay.
I'm
It
not
felt
sure.
a little long.
It did feel long, but it is only an hour and a half. I mean, it is like chock full of stuff, let's say. Cause this is one of those comedies that is just scene after scene after scene. Like you really don't get almost a break. Like once they're together, it is just, and this is the point of the film, right? It's like, disaster after disaster after disaster for this Neal Page guy. So that's how it's like set up. It does get a little exhausting. Maybe that's like why it feels long. But I'm assuming the screenplay was long because there was a lot of scenes and then there's a lot of dialogue between the two guys and yada yada yada. So great though. So again, like basically the only Thanksgiving movie most people know, and like I said, you'll ever need, because it's perfect, because it's basically about heinous travel. And what is Thanksgiving known for as the most craziest travel day of the year, right? So there's like no one in the U.S. who probably hasn't had like some crazy travel story, if not on Thanksgiving, then sometime in their life. Because the thing is with travel is like across the board a miserable thing for most people. Like it sucks. And whether you're on a plane, a train, an automobile, like shit goes wrong and you're like, fuck my life.
But I never understood why Thanksgiving, like why isn't Christmas, maybe because people have like the whole week of Christmas off, not just just Thanksgiving Day. Like why is it Thanksgiving is the worst day to travel?
I don't know, because good question. I'm trying to like think through it. Is it because with Christmas, you could like most people kind of do their own thing, are not necessarily like going to families. But Thanksgiving, you have like one person hosting and people go there, so there's like that.
I think
act
that's
of
a very
travel.
narrow understanding of Thanksgiving and Christmas.
wait.
That's just how we celebrate it.
Here's
But
another reason. Everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. It's a non-religious holiday. You're talking about Christmas. You're talking about people not necessarily celebrating that. So you could take out a chunk of people who just don't celebrate Christmas.
maybe,
So they're not
maybe.
traveling.
Interesting theories.
Yep.
If you have a theory, let us know. Contact us. Tell us. Send us an article at the Sweetie Club. Anyways, yeah. So Thanksgiving, nightmare traveling. When Sweetie and I, before we had a car, nightmare situation. We'll get into it. We'll talk about some of our worst travel stories. But yeah, I don't have a lot of memories watching. Like I definitely remember watching this when I was little. It didn't stick in my mind as like a family classic like to the extent that Uncle Buck did, for instance. But I still remember certain scenes pretty vividly from when I was younger. I don't know.
I definitely saw it much later in life than Uncle Buck. If you remember my Uncle Buck story, I saw it in theaters when I was in like first grade. So this one came along a lot later, and I don't think I ever saw the full version, like a video of it. It was played on TV a lot, not necessarily during Thanksgiving, but probably more so than it usually is. So I just remember seeing almost just like a lot of jumping into it in different times when it was on TV. I think I probably watched it a couple times all the way through, but mostly just like these big scenes, because there's famous scenes in this that people have talked about for a long time, and those really stick out, and so that's kind of like what I remember. But it is great. I mean, it is such, as John Hughes comedies tend to be if they're done correctly, like a feel-good flick. With really, always pretty good casting for these main roles. So in this case, Steve Martin and John Candy working really well together, and the writing and all the stuff is just really good. And it's all this Midwestern charm kind of stuff that John Hughes kind of always did, and it just really, really works well. It's interesting watching this now, and we talked about this, when you talk about 80s movies, or even early 90s before the advent of cell phones and smartphones, and how like this kind of movie would probably not be able to happen because you would have all these other bits of technology at your fingertips. So, many of the obstacles that they have to face in this movie just like would not exist. I mean, I'm still floored, and I still do not understand how when credit cards were first brought about, you had this credit card, and then you like gave it to the guy, and he made like a carbon copy of it, and then was like, okay, here you go. Like, how do you know? Because now when you use a credit card, right, they'll scan it and be like, if you had no money on it, they'd be like, sorry, you're out of luck. Like, you're not staying at this hotel. What did they do then?
Yeah. You'd find out later.
Did they call up
and then
the
you
bank
get a bill
immediately and be like, hey?
Yeah, and then you get a nasty thing.
Did everyone just have a lot of,
Probably.
freed up credit
We've been
cards?
through this before. We're the only two people that don't have money and that have credit cards without money on them because we thought it was free money. No, not really, but we had some debt. We had some debt issues, but I think that is crazy, and it's just like free, And I will say, I think in the 80s, not many people didn't have 5 different credit cards.
Right.
Like even Steve Martin, who's like
he's
pretty rich, has 2. One of them is a real credit card, and one of them's a Diners
What
Club
is
card.
Diners
which, like,
Club?
I don't even know what that is. Somebody who's a little older should tell us. I don't know.
And don't you think the Diners Club looks like a pig snout? And I always thought it was, and I was like, oh, pig, diner.
Is it what American Express was before?
No, I don't think so.
Diners Club card. Founded
Doesn't
as
it look like a pig
Diners Club. It does a little bit. You're right. Is a charge card company owned by Discover Financial Services.
Oh.
Founded in 1950. Wow. Go Diners Club. Top question. Does Diner Club's card still exist? Ceased to exist in North America. Sorry.
I thought you could only use those at restaurants. Is that the case?
Well, that's what I thought as well, but perhaps
also,
not.
who has a Discover card? That's like
A
the
few
weird
people.
off-brand credit card.
Some people have it. I
Never
see those
people-
advertised all the time. They're like the alternative. Like,
But nobody takes those. A lot of times they will not take them.
Sure, it's like
Everyone
American.
takes-
It's like American Express.
Right,
It's like a could be not.
Maybe they have good interest rates. Anyway, we're way off topic.
Credit cards,
Planes, trains, and automobiles. Okay. So, any other people in this movie? I don't even know if I want to say
Not
it
really.
because I think the cameos, if you want to call them that, in this movie are great.
Well, I mean, they're a lot of Hughes regulars.
Yeah.
People that pop up in a lot of his movies. So there's one like crazy cameo that we'll talk about. But other than that, that's really these are
just the main
it's really
guys.
just John Candy and Steve
know.
Martin, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone else is like, I think his wife is some actress that like looks so familiar.
She was in
a wife in
Homeland.
something else.
Yeah,
isn't
she was a wife in Homeland. She was like a duck. What's the guy from Mad Men? Remember, he's like a dipshit in Homeland. One of the more
Yeah.
recent seasons. She's like his wife or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, but nobody big. But I
No.
agree, and that's good because it doesn't like distract from
Yeah.
what is like obviously the stars of the show. Steve Martin and John
Matthew
Candy.
Lawrence, or is it Joe? Which Lawrence brothers?
Matthew.
Matthew.
Yep.
Oh my God, so cute.
Adorable.
Can't
Oh my
handle
God,
it.
that
Can't handle it.
bowl
Is the little
cut.
girl the girl from Beaches? Because I hate that girl.
No.
And I didn't like this girl. And I don't like the Beaches girl. So sorry.
Okay, well, that's
Sorry.
Sweetie's
I
opinion.
don't like any of those girls. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So
Flick over.
let's get into. There's lots of hijinks in this film. So we'll see how we do with the synopsis. Who knows? I just realized I didn't run down a quote. Oh, no, I did.
Thank God.
Oh, yeah. I'll just do the really easy one. Okay. It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
Those aren't pillows.
Neal Page is a ad executive who travels back and forth between New York City and Chicago. I guess I gather that he travels a lot, and he's verging on the bad dad, teeter-totter here, where he's always on business. The kids miss him. This time he's on business a couple days before Thanksgiving, so he's impatient and is looking at the clock because he's trying to catch a flight at 6 p.m. leaving from New York City.
Do you remember what day before
Thanksgiving? So this was a question that I had. So I think, if you think about how many nights they spend, I think it's 2 nights.
Yeah.
Or so 3 nights. So
Tuesday?
Must be Tuesday or Monday night turning into Tuesday. I don't know. Yeah, we'll say Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's today. It's this exact day.
Which is when a couple people start going home.
Time. Yep. No, but I don't know who he was kidding, but trying to leave New York City at 6 p.m. a couple days before Thanksgiving. Ugh.
And what time does he leave when he's looking at his watch? Isn't it 5 p.m.?
That's why his buddy's you're never going to make it.
And if you've ever taken any flights out of New York, the airports are on opposite sides. So one is in Queens and one is in Brooklyn, on the end, other end of Brooklyn. So it's not easy to get there. And that's why I think a lot of people take cabs, because you can take the subway, but it's a little bit it's long. And also I just feel no one took the subway in the 80s because it was dirty and scary, and it's still dirty and scary, but it was way dirtier and scarier in the 80s before Giuliani cleaned up the city.
Definitely would have got killed on the subway. So he's trying to get a cab. It's not going so great. He almost gets one.
You know who steals his cab, guys?
Is it Kevin Bacon?
Kevin Bacon fucking steals his cab, that footloose bastard.
Why is Kevin Bacon in this movie? I have so many questions about it. It's I get cameos, are a big deal. But Kevin Bacon is a big deal. Such a big deal that I'm why would you have Kevin Bacon in a non-speaking random 2-second role in this movie?
I'm so surprised that didn't come up in the trivia, because it feels like something that was so
we need
the
a
person who was in this role didn't show up. So John Hughes was who can I call and do this role just today? My friend Kevin Bacon.
Who wants to add movies to his resume so he can one day be in a stupid game about how many people are in his movies with him?
Probably half of his 90 movie credit is weirdo cameos. Yeah. So fucking Kevin Bacon is this sly little dog-faced bastard and tries to steal his cab, and it's totally bullshit. That's never happened to me, but I think it is it was a problem, maybe still is, in the cab sitch in New York. Right?
Sure.
It happened to Samantha on Sex and the City.
Right, it happens all the time. So he barters with Kevin Bacon, is here, I'll give you $200 if I can take this cab or whatever.
No, that's not him. That's the next guy who's the lawyer.
Oh, Jesus. So there's another guy, basically, he pays somebody to get in a cab. While he's trying to bribe this guy to get the cab, another shifty character with a giant trunk takes the cab, puts the trunk in the trunk. The trunk in the trunk. Wow.
Whoa. Mind blown.
Yeah. And drives off. And Steve Martin and Neal's what the fuck? He's so pissed. But he chases the cab down, opens the door, and is you stole my cab. But nothing happens because you can't really do that. I mean, he's not a muscle man.
Well, the light changes and the cab goes, and then all his shit's everywhere.
It's bad. It's bad news. So finally, he gets to the airport. Barely. It's 5. It's exactly 6 p.m. He gets to the gate, and everyone's favorite sign appears: delayed. Bad weather in Chicago. Who would have thought? There's bad weather in Chicago. There's always bad weather in Chicago. I don't know if it's just a John Hughes thing or if it's nobody can get flights.
Don't they fly
Kevin
around the
McAllister's
storms?
mom can't get flights. That's what my question is. So whatever. So the plane's delayed, so they're waiting at the gate. Who should be waiting in the seat across from him but the exact guy that stole his cab before, who he finds out is named Del Griffith, and that's John Candy's character. He is a shower curtain ring salesman. So those little rings that attach your shower curtain to the shower bar, that's what he sells.
I want to say those looked very good quality. Mine are busted and break all the time,
Some
and
of
I'm
them looked okay, but
where are the good shower curtain
Was
rings
this before you could buy those anywhere?
Well, was there like a bed? I don't think there was a Bed Bath and Beyond.
No, but I feel like a hardware store. Like I don't know. I just feel like
where did you buy shower curtain
easily
from a salesman?
Oh, it's weird. But anyway, so he hates Del Griffith kind of immediately because he's like, Del Griffith's like, I know you from somewhere, and he's like, you stole my cab, and he's like, no, I didn't. I've never stolen anything in my life. And Del seems like a pretty nice guy. He just seems kind of like different, I guess. Just a little weird.
Well, he's acting like he doesn't know what he's talking about when I think he completely is aware of all the cons and ripoffs that he does, but he puts on this sort of like, what are you saying? I'm too nice and blah,
It's hard
blah,
to tell. I don't know. It's honestly, I'm not sure.
That's his shtick.
I think this is a debate for the ages. Debate for the ages. Anyway, so eventually the plane boards and they finally get to go to Chicago. Now, his ticket says it takes approximately 45 minutes to fly from New York to Chicago. Sweetie and I have debunked that. It takes more realistically probably 2 hours, whatever. But anyways, so they're on this flight. Wouldn't you know it? He gets a seat next to Del Griffith.
Well, he's supposed to be in first class, but he gets bumped without. He doesn't. Yeah. I don't know how that happens.
We're not first classers, so we have no idea what that means. But it's bad. You know, you paid for a seat and then you get a shitty seat instead.
Not coach.
Not okay. So I don't blame him though, because it looks pretty miserable. He's sandwiched between two guys. Dell's fallen asleep like into his face. It's off. It
I
seems
love when
awful.
He's like arguing with the flight attendant, and then this other guy like breezes in. He's like, where should I sit, Sally? And she's like, anywhere you want. Like, that's supposed to be like on
a first name basis,
like first classes. It's just same. I have never been in. I do not know the luxury, but wow, that sounds amazing.
Looks nice. So. Basically, what happens is the plane gets diverted to Wichita, Kansas. So I just had to pull up a map of the United States because I was like, it's like it's like Chicago and then Kansas is like diagonally like two states or like one state down. I don't know, but I just feel like it's a weird place to dive. Like, can't you divert somewhere before that, like Kentucky or like somewhere? I don't know. It seems like an odd choice, but whatever. So they end up in Wichita. Everybody's pissed. Can't land in Chicago. All these people are stranded. There's no hotels. But you know who did get a hotel? Mr. Del Griffith. Because while Neal was calling his family and being like, oh, I'm so sorry. I know I said I'd be home, but the plane we can't land.
10 hours away from Chicago.
Okay. Del was busy calling hotels. So he gets a hotel, some like crackpot hotel in the middle of nowhere. It's Wichita, so like everywhere is the middle of nowhere, I guess. But this is like really seems like the middle of nowhere. Very shitty hotel, I guess. Well, they don't really make a point that it's super shitty. But the point is that Del is like, you can stay with me, right? Like they have rooms or whatever.
Well, he got like the last room there.
Oh right.
And just
right.
offers
and they were
the room
like,
to him.
Yeah, and he was like, you can.
Or else you're gonna be sleeping on the floor of the airport.
Unfortunately, the room has only one bed, and it's like a tiny, I'd say full size bed. Really small, way too small for two grown men, especially one of John Candy's girth. So, close and comfy. So I think, there's a little like he's not going to do it, but then they end up just like, we need to get sleep. So they do it. Immediately Neal's pretty annoyed with Del, I would say. He has a lot of gross habits. But eventually they fall asleep, wake up in the morning to Del's hands draped over Neal. And then they realize they've been like intimately intertwined for who knows how long.
So before that, there's all these, as Sweetie said, these little things that are like annoying Neal about Del, and he is like ready. And I forgot like what sets him off. I think it's like the middle of the night. He's snoring or something like that. I don't know. He like jumps out of bed and basically just like dresses him down, is saying like basically everything he thinks about him, which is like, you're annoying, you won't stop talking, all your stories are anecdotes, like have a point. And it's just like he doesn't know him well enough, but it's probably one of the the cruelest moment of this movie. And you can see like John Candy character Del like just holding it all in and just basically like crying on the inside. And it's very sad. And he goes, I like me, my wife likes me, like I don't care like what you think, I'm like going back to bed. And it's this and it's kind of like when the character of Neal basically breaks a little bit from someone who's like a cynic and someone who is just kind of all about anger, like that softens him a little bit because he's like, oh shit, like I am a legit asshole. And then he gets back into the bed and then the intimate moment happens.
And then the intimate. So they freak out like, ew, gay stuff, and like freak out. And
Gay stuff.
well, it's like a very like I'm so sick. I know that, you know, obviously John Hughes movies have this like theme, right, where, you know, ooh, gay, bad, ooh.
Well, it happens twice in this hotel room scene, because when they first get in, they notice the bed. It's just a single bed, and the way they like. It's so, now looking back on it, I'm like, this is so ridiculous. The way they are like, well, we're definitely not gay, is they like lower their voice and they talk about sports.
No, they just talk about sports like after the intimate intertwinement.
But then,
they're like, how about the football game?
But then they do it again when they walk in. But again, it's the lowering of the voice, but they're like, wow, like that was a tough cab ride. Like, whoa. You know, it's this like distraction kind of a thing. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like you have to sleep in the same bed. Like nothing is gonna happen.
Oh, boys.
And, you know, it's just like,
so yeah,
it's so annoying that was like
it's
such
a
point of
but,
humor.
I mean, ultimately, it's a bad night of sleep.
Yeah.
Made even worse by the fact that they get robbed. Right? It's at this hotel. Yeah. They get robbed in the middle of the night by some like crazy thief with a knife who opens the door. Like it's shoddy door locks in this. This was before hotels had like serious locking situations. But if I didn't know that you could have a risk of getting robbed in the middle of the night at a hotel. Yikes, scary. So scary. And then Wichita, Kansas. What? So they both get robbed and don't realize it. They go to like a diner the next morning to eat breakfast. Neal's like, I'll pay this one. Don't worry about it. He's okay. They're like, okay, great. He has no money. He blames Dell and is like, you obviously stole all the money out of my wallet. And Dell's like, no, I did not. Here's my wallet. Count it. $94 or something. He has no money either.
$5.
Oh yeah. But they both have a lot of cash. Yeah. Way too much cash.
Well, this was the cash world.
I know. But like still it's a lot of cash. They realize they both have been robbed. They're like, shit, what are we going to do now? So what's next? They go. Train. Oh, Dell has a buddy who runs the trains or something with the trains. Yeah. He has some train connection, so he gets him on a train.
They figure out Neal has credit cards, so they figure out that they can charge their way now. Now they don't have cash, but Neal's like, I'll go to the train station. I'll buy both of us tickets, and we'll be on our way. So they get tickets, and Neal, whether like it's true or not, is like we couldn't get two seats together. I
don't think it's true.
I don't think it's true at all. And so they're like, okay, so he thinks this is it. And he's really trying to get rid of this guy. And again, he's like, Neal is not the nicest person, but he's also a human being. And I think many of us in that situation would probably be like, okay, this guy's great and all, but he's pretty irritating, and like I need to get away from there. So they get on the train, everything's like hunky dory, and then all of a sudden, lurch, brake, smoke. Train
breaks down. We never find out the problem, but train broke. Everybody has to get off of the train and walk a mile or so, the guy says.
Is that what happened when a train breaks down? Because my reaction was, what did that little girl in the seat next to him
all the
do?
all the old biddies who are like, now I have to carry this suitcase.
That doesn't seem right. That the conductor would be like, well, everybody, it's a mile down the road, and then like someone will pick. Like I don't know if they got really like a shuttle or something.
Sweetie was just stuck on a subway train for an hour in between stations. They didn't make people get off, so I don't know. Times they have changed. But poor Dell's got his huge trunk, and Neal kind of sees him struggling in the distance, and there's that moment of like battling with himself, like, oh, I know I should help him, but like I don't like that guy, and like, but his conscience gets the better of him, and he goes to help Neal. So they're back together again, much to Neal's chagrin. So yes, so now they turn to the bus. Has Neal ever been on a bus? Probably not. Not this kind of bus. But I'm like, did he have money always? What? How have people never been on a bus?
Did he say he'd never been on a bus?
Well, I don't know. Neal was like, Dell was like, it's going to be bad. Like, you ever ridden a bus before? I don't know. But pretty miserable as well. It looks rough. It looks like a rough fucking bus. There's people like having sex next door. They're singing songs.
There's a sing along.
There's
That's
a
the greatest bus
sing-along,
ever.
which is fun.
I've never heard
And
a
Dell's
sing-along
kind
on a
of
bus.
leading it. Neal tries to sing a song, but nobody knows it. It's pretty funny. I love that scene. But then the bus. What happened? And then
So then the bus, they could only get, that was where Dell had the connection about the bus. So they only could get the bus to St. Louis. So they were going to be stuck there. I don't know why a bus like didn't go from St. Louis to Chicago. I mean, how much closer would they have been?
right, that's a pretty
close,
I think that,
right?
And that seems like a common route in like 2 major cities connecting them. But whatever,
Right. And then they're not doing plane stuff anymore, and I forget why.
because
So
the planes can't land in Chicago. The bad
There's
weather.
still a snowstorm?
I don't know.
Jeez.
I don't know. Or they tried, or no, did they say like you're not going to be able to get a flight? Yeah, they're like, don't try. He already called the airlines when they were at the diner or whatever. So next, they get a rental car. Well,
No.
Neal tries to get a rental.
So they separate again.
They separate ways again because Neal's like, listen, this has been fun, but we don't seem to have a lot of luck when we're together. So let's go our separate ways.
Again, being like, no, I really don't like you, but tries to sugarcoat it a little bit. However, Dell sees through all that and is like kind of pissed. I mean, his feelings are hurt because you have Dell really liking Neal and liking hanging out with him. He's clearly a very lonely guy. But Neal is like, get me the fuck out of here. So he very nicely is like, yeah, let's part ways. And Dell had sold, another amazing scene we'll talk about, all his shower curtains to people as earrings. And I was able to make like $100 or something like that. So they have some of that cash. But remember, Neal still has his credit card. So he's like, okay, we've done planes, we've done trains, time for automobiles, time to rent a car. So from St. Louis, I don't know how far they are. I feel like it's maybe like 5 hours or something. So definitely like drivable. So he goes and, gets his car rental. And if you've ever rented a car, oftentimes you take a shuttle outside of the airport and you get dumped off. And then your car is in like a numbered space and you basically have like the keys with you. And so he gets to his numbered space. The car ain't there.
It's not there. Did Dell take it? Is that what happened?
That is the theory. That was the theory in the trivia. But
how would the keys have worked in that car?
Yeah, I don't. Maybe Howard. No,
but if he had Neal's credit card like at that time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Wait.
That's how he got the car because Neal was like, "How did you rent a car?"
Then how did Neal rent the car?
A different credit card.
He had 2.
Yeah.
Oh, he took his Diners Club. He still had his Visa.
I think so. Yeah. So the car's not there. So unfortunately, the shuttle has already left. So Neal has to like walk back to the airport through this like icy terrain, 3 miles, falls down an icy like snowbank directly into oncoming traffic and almost gets run over
was the scariest
by a giant truck.
I'm like, this isn't funny anymore. He almost got decapitated by
know.
like a snowplow or
And he's
something.
just like, la la la. So makes it back to the rental counter, is very upset, says maybe 1,000 fuckings to this poor lady.
It's actually 18.
Wow. I would have said more.
In 1
but
minute.
He's just like, what I would like is a fucking car in the fucking lot that is fucking there so I can take the fucking car back home to fucking Chicago. It's just like, it's like thing after, it's so funny. And it's like classic Steve Martin just like going off. I love it. But the lady's like, well, do you have your renter's agreement or whatever? And he's like, I threw it away.
I
And
threw
she's
it
like,
away.
Well, isn't that too bad? You're fucked. The woman from Ferris Bueller, so love her.
Secretary.
So he's fucked. So he's what does he do next? He goes outside or something.
He's getting a taxi.
Oh, yeah, and then he gets in a fight with the cab driver and gets slugged, punched or whatever, and like falls into the road. Almost gets run over by a car again. As luck would have it, the car is being driven by one Dell Griffith, and he's like, Neal, what are you doing? I almost killed you. And so puts him in the car and they drive off, whatever, they're saved. Neal's like, wait a minute, how did you rent a car? And because he knows, I mean, you need a credit card to rent a car still in the 80s, right? I'm assuming.
Yes. Well, this doesn't happen until later, though. So they're driving and, they're taking turns going to sleep. So Neal, I think, does does he have the first shift? And he drives. He is the second. He's in the passenger seat because he got pulled like by his scrotum, basically. Like the taxi driver had to like move him out of the road, and he like pulled him by the balls. So he has like this high voice, and he's like in the passenger seat. So he's like sleeping. But then there's another section where like Del breaks the seat.
Yeah,
so he
because
must
that's
be
when
driving.
Neal's driving.
Yeah. So
They
then
switch.
Then Del is driving again, and Neal is passed out. So Del is smoking a cigarette, and he flicks like a couple ashes into the back.
No, he threw the cigarette out the window, but it flew back in and went into the back seat.
And then then the car gets really hot, so he tries to take off his jacket, and his loops of his jacket get caught on like the seat adjuster thing. So he's like stuck with no arms, and he's like flipping out, but like goes like down an exit ramp, and then like flips,
spins out,
and
whatever. And then Neal wakes up and is like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, almost hit a deer." Yeah.
So then they get back on the highway, but unfortunately he just turns around and goes back the way he came, and that leads onto the highway in the wrong direction. So he's driving in the wrong direction. This couple next to him is like rolling down the window, and he's like, "You're going the wrong way. You're gonna kill somebody." And they're like, "They're drunk. What's wrong with them?" Blah, blah, blah. It's like so funny. They finally realize it because 2 tractor trailers, 2 semis are coming towards them, and they are like, fuck. They go between them. Their car gets entirely scraped up and then spins a couple times and then is like on the side of the road. So they get out of the car because like Del's big trunk got like ejected from the car, and then they get into this fight. And that's when he realizes, wait, how did you rent a car? Because he learns in the beginning that the only credit card that Del has is for like this big and tall store in Oregon.
It's Oregon.
And so he knows he doesn't have a credit card. So then he's like, "You stole my credit card." And he's like, "No." And you do see in like when this happens, when they're at the hotel, like something. His AAA card and his Diners Club card get like swapped or something. Oh. So that's like what happened. So it's not an actual theft.
Yeah. But he had it. He was in a pinch, so he used it, I guess. So then they kind of get in a fight, but then like pause, and then they just like sit on the trunk and are like, "Well, that was crazy." And then behind them, you see the car has just ignited into flames because that little cigarette was still just like chilling out in the car. So the car's on fire. They both notice like individually and turn around and are like, huh. And it just at this point is just like par for the course, I guess, for their situation. So they're not like super shocked by it. But then do they freak out? No, they're just like, wow.
Sorry. So that's when he finds out that he actually rented the car.
Neal left his wallet in the glove compartment. But that's now neither of them.
Well,
have.
Neal starts laughing because he's like, "Ha, finally, like it's on you because you rented this car and it's exploded. You're gonna have to pay for it." And then he goes, "Actually, I used your credit card." And like, I don't know what that would mean if you rented a car with a credit card and like the car blew up.
Well,
like, does your insurance cover that?
I think Neal's would, because he could say that his credit card was stolen. I mean, I think like Del broke more laws in that situation, probably, right? I think he'd be okay. But yeah, so that's what happened. So cut to them now driving the incinerated car on the highway, which has magically still drivable somehow. You don't see them putting out the car. I don't know how they put the car out.
They put the car out.
No clue. But they're driving this car. It is a convertible now at this point, completely scorched. The radio still works for some reason. And they're just kind of just like crazed at this point, very little sleep, freezing because they're driving through these like cold climates with no car, like with a convertible, basically. They get pulled over and
they're at the motel now.
Okay, yeah, they're at the motel, and now at this point, Del does not have any money left. Neal is able to pawn his watch, his nice fancy watch off, and get a room. Del's Casio, not so lucky, and he has to sleep in the car, which is not really a car; it's a convertible, and it's winter and snowing.
A metal shell.
So. Neal is finally like, I finally rid of this guy. Like, I can't believe, he stole it. He took his credit card. He rented the car. The car, he fucked a lot of things up. I give him that. But he goes and looks outside and sees poor Dell like in the car and is like, Dell, like it's pretty cold out there. Why don't you come in? So then they have a kind of this nice makeup scene in the hotel and they have fun. They're drinking all these nips and just talking, I guess, about their lives and their wives and stuff like that. So next morning they depart and they're like, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to go to Chicago. They get pulled over. The cop's like, do you think this car is safe to be driving? And they're like, definitely safe. And he's like, I'm going to have to impound this.
You have no working gauges.
Yeah.
Not a one.
So they impound the car. And then Dell pulls up in a semi-truck with some guy driving it. And he's like, here's the thing, though. We can't sit in the cab because the driver's weird about people in the front. So we have to sit in the back, which unfortunately is like a refrigerated or like freezer in the back. So now they're cold again. All Neal wanted was to be warm. But anyways, that's their final leg, basically. And they get to Chicago. They're on the L platform. Saying goodbye, and they've actually become like pretty good friends at this point. And Neal finally accepts it, and they're like, "Oh, all right, goodbye. I'll see you. Bye." And it's just like, I don't know. It's like they're like don't want to say goodbye to each other because they've come to like welcome each other's company or whatever. So it's sweet. But so Neal is off in the train, and then Dell goes back inside. Neal starts like recounting conversations that they had and like puts it together that Dell actually does not have any family because he's mentioned his wife. But actually the way he puts this together is kind of like I don't think I would have like put this together.
And the only way it's like kind of gets a little bit somber is because they play this like basically like a Phil Collins slow jam in the background. It's like 80s like synthesizer, like low, like I would want to say it's like thoughtful, sad music where he's reliving the good times and he's like laughing. He's like, yeah, that was pretty funny, blah, blah, blah. And then like 3 sentences he says, he's like, oh shit, he's homeless.
Because Dell once was like, I haven't been home in 5 years or something. But then he's like, oh, just kidding. I didn't mean that. Neal's like, oh my God. So he goes back and he's like, Neal, why are you in the train? Why are you here in the train? Why are you going home? Dell, why aren't you going home? And he's like, oh, I don't have a home. Like I'm homeless or whatever. And my wife died 5 years ago, blah, blah, blah. So super sad, but Neal does the right thing and makes him come with him to his family to Thanksgiving, and he has a nice meal. But then like the last 2 minutes is just Neal and his wife going like goo eyes over each other, and then Dell is like awkwardly like sad because he's like, I miss my wife, but they don't address it, and then it just ends on Dell's face, and you're like, is he sad?
Thank you. The ending is like totally fucked up. Here's a couple of reasons why. I feel like the wife is weird and she's like way over emotional. Have you not seen, is this Castaway? Have you not seen your husband in like 20 years? Because I'm pretty sure like he wasn't gone for that long. And he kept calling and it was fine. Right. Like you'd think he would have been dead. He was like almost dead or something.
He's like rubbing it in Dell's face. Yes. Like, oh, so my wife is beautiful and alive.
What the fuck? Rubbing it in with this like hot wife and family. And you just have like Dell like watching him make out with his wife, like twisting his gloves, and then the end is just this frozen smile of him being like kind of like fuck this. You can like
weird
see his face. Why does it end like that?
I don't know.
Couldn't it have been like the kids like take his hand and they're like, come on, Dell, like, I want to show you my toys.
Yeah, and then they have fun. Like it's so weird. It's very bizarre. I've never noticed that. But yeah, that's the end. So did they make it? Did Neal and Dell make it as friends? Yes or no?
What the fuck happened to Dell, right? Because like, okay, were they gonna be like, okay, let's have Thanksgiving dinner with us / you can live in like the garage? I don't know.
Right? Did he like help him get on his feet?
Right.
Like, I'm still concerned.
Is
like
he
how
actually homeless?
Right. I'm concerned. Like, is he homeless? How is that like a feasible? How is that like a sustainable? I'm assuming he makes some money selling shower curtain rings or whatever, and that's the money he uses to get from place to place, and that's why he knows all those people and has all those connections because he's done this for several years or whatever. But still, I don't know. I have a lot of questions.
I do too. I mean, when he said like I don't have a home, I thought it meant more like I don't have a family. Like my wife is dead, and if you don't have any other extended family, And he didn't have any friends. I mean, this was the main thing, right? He was kind of an annoying dude, and he like had this connection with Neal, or so he thought. So he like it was a first friend that he had. He didn't. I'm not. This is like probably not the right way to put this, but like he didn't seem homeless. He didn't look homeless. If you're just like living on the street, I just like didn't see that being like his character. So you're saying he used all his money from his earnings from the shower curtain stuff just to like
to get around and sell more shower curtain rings,
make his way on the road.
Traveling salesman, they call it.
But what if this was like again, I said in the beginning, and honestly, I love the character, but there is a con man aspect to him, and it's like, that's how he gets by? Is he just conning people and stealing cabs and finding someone on an airport?
But stealing a cab is not. Like, it's not like he didn't pay for that cab. Like he still had to pay that cab to get him where he was going. True. So it's not like he was really stealing it. That's true. I think he just like I think he
bought an airline ticket,
right? Like I think he So I don't know. That's why I'm not sure. I think he's just a lonely guy, but just kind of like doing his life. But
because I think like he didn't have any place to go for Thanksgiving for sure. Like whether he like,
I don't think he had a home. If you're a traveling salesman, like you're just like always on the road traveling. He's basically like a hobo, right? Who just goes
how
he's
do you
just
pay
like
for
a
that
glorified
many
hobo.
A hotel room for every day of every year. Well, that's very expensive,
right? I don't know, and I don't know where he was sleeping. He didn't have a car. He got that rental car. It was like a one-time thing.
I think we need a card.
I know. I have so many questions.
How did Del get to be Del?
Right. It's there's a lot. There's a lot.
He's a fascinating fellow.
A lot happening. Okay, so favorite scenes. I gotta say, for me, it's the first hotel scene where they first come up against each other with their different habits and whatnot. There is a great scene of Neal takes a shower after Del's been in the bathroom, and Neal like gets out of the shower and there's no towels. There's like one washcloth is like the only thing that he has. And it just, unfortunately that has happened to me several times. I hate to admit it, not in a hotel, but like sometimes I'll be doing laundry and like wash. Okay. So admission, I only have 2 towels. And like I'll wash all my towels and then be like, oh, I want to take a shower. And then I do not realize until I have stepped out of the shower that I don't have any towels. And wow, one time it was like the worst. And I was freezing and I like didn't know what to do. I ended up taking my hair dryer and blow drying my body dry. It actually worked. But it was like freezing and I was so upset. And it reminded me of this scene from this movie. And it's just like, ugh. But that scene of that bathroom is like in disarray. There's like water everywhere. It actually kind of looks what the bathroom after Sweetie takes a shower. I used to yell at you for like leaving water on the floor.
What?
You just like get everything all wet, and Dad would always yell at us for that too. He'd be like, "Why you kids get all the water on the floor?"
I do not remember that.
But it's gross. And then Neal goes to like wash his face in the sink or whatever, and Del's socks are in the sink.
Wait. Okay, here's a theory about that.
Okay.
Okay, do you like you turn off the shower and you're like in the shower? Do you take the towel like in the shower and towel off?
What?
I think that's what some people do.
Yeah.
You take it in the shower with you. No, I don't take it
in the shower with me, but like I will, before I step out of the shower, like I put each foot like under the towel to dry it off. And then I dry off on the mat.
So my towels are always like outside of the shower, kind of far.
Yeah, you have to bring the towels closer.
Yeah, so I don't have that. So I'm stepping out with like a real like full wet body onto the bath mat.
So we've solved.
Like, even reaching for a towel will like stream off water onto the ground.
We've solved the mystery, folks.
I mean, I've noticed my bathroom being very wet too. And like this is the problem. So I think a lot of people grab the towel and like towel off in the shower.
Let's not loop everybody, but probably that's right. Probably most people will do that.
But also, sweetie, I now have so many towels. I do not know what to do with them. So do you want towels?
No, I bought Christmas? 2 towels last weekend.
Okay,
so I have 4.
Because that really changed your life. Because I also was like a 2 towel person and it was annoying. And then I was like, fuck this. I'm doing much better financially. I'm going to get a lot of towels. And then I had a lot of towels.
Now you have too many towels.
There can never be too many towels.
Okay. Well,
because you always need some for maybe guests, and that's the worst when like someone's coming over.
Yeah,
and you're like,
oh
shit,
I only have 2
like,
towels.
I don't have any towels.
Here's an old crusty beach towel.
Or here's this like reject towel that I've been keeping like just in case that maybe I used to like pick up the floor for random shit.
Remember we used to have towels, especially when we were little, for drying off the dogs.
That smelled like dogs forever.
That smelled like wet dog. If we gave them one of those towels. But anyways, that scene. And then that scene also, Neal dries his face off in like disgust after seeing the socks in the sink, and it's a giant pair of Dell's underwear. Oh my God. It's so
much of Dad.
It does. And it's our dad also wore tidy whities, and that did remind me of Dad also. But that's my scene that sticks out. And even though the gay stuff is rude, it is still pretty funny when they're like, why is your hand holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between 2 pillows. Those aren't pillows. Because it's his butt. Yeah, good times. It's a good scene. I mean, can't deny it, right?
Yeah, so good. Okay, so that's definitely one of my favorite scenes. The car scene, basically, in general, they're in basically what is the Griswold car, but like a smaller version of it. So it's that, what was it when we did it?
Atomic P. Sweetie was convinced it was Atomic Pete. False.
But it's like a chopped up version of it, but it has like, I think it's like a LeBaron or something like that. So it has like the green, but it has the wood, those fake wood sidings that they have. And it's like, I don't know. Their whole like interactions with the car is so good. And then when it bursts into flames and they are just like sitting on the car or the trunk and they just turn around and just look at it each separately. It's like this. I love how it's like each separate, like they each have their own reaction, but it's basically like, well, that happened. Like it's so good. And they're like cracking up and hearing John Candy's laugh. Whether that is his real laugh or not, I'm not sure. It is so good. Again, reminds me so much of my dad. John Candy in general reminds me very much of our father. In his laugh, I mean, our dad wasn't as a large man like that. I mean, he was not at his baby best weight most of his life, but he wasn't like that large. Yeah. But he had very similar laugh, very similar sense of humor, and very similar, I would say, like comedic timing. And the thing what I love about John Candy and most of his movies is his like, I guess I would say it's like a deadpan reaction to things. That he's being so funny, but like really serious. And this, my favorite part, another favorite scene is when the cop pulls them over and he's like, as kind of Sweetie was explaining, the cop's like, do you think this vehicle is safe for highway travel? And like John Candy is so serious. And he's like, you bet.
Yes. Yes,
I do. Yes, I do. And he's just like so serious during the whole thing. And he has like all these like great kind of just like very straightforward comebacks, but it is so funny. And he is just the greatest. And like what a lot. I mean, what a loss. Who knows where he would have been now or like.
You know what's not the greatest though is his pube hair. I don't understand. Like I think did they give him that hairstyle because it makes him like con manny or like not? It makes him look
a little bit like childlike, I guess I would say, where the naive stuff would kind of come in because he seems like,
yeah,
right.
I still think.
And how did it get like that? Did they give him a perm?
I thought it was like a wig or something.
Piece? Yeah, probably
might be a piece. And he has a mustache too. And it's just like a darker hair color than we've ever seen on John Candy. So it just, I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable. And it made me uncomfortable when I was little. And I like don't think I liked Del because when I was little, I was like, ew, weird hair.
Well, I always liked Del, but again, he comes off as like a little bit more of a scammer psycho to me now. And he's so likable, and if anyone else did the role, I probably would have hated him like more. But John Candy's so likable, and he really is just like this friendly, like little oaf.
Yeah.
Now, the Neal character, I really have a new appreciation for. Maybe because I've had my own bad travel woes, and I like relate to him so much. And I'm like, you know what? Like, he's right in most scenarios of this movie. And he maybe doesn't have the right reactions in some cases, but okay, case in point, the part when he's on the airplane and he's sitting next to him and Del is talking his ear off and he's like, fuck, I just want to sit here and read my fucking magazine. I don't want to talk to this guy who already like ripped me off, like took my cab. Like I don't want to be buddies with this guy. and I don't want to have a conversation. It's a 2-hour flight or whatever it was, an hour and a half. Like, I just want to read my magazine. And he very nicely and very diplomatically is like, I'm not really a talker. I've had a long day. Like, I just want to read my magazine. Like, hope that's okay. And that's like all you have to say to those people. But it's really hard sometimes when you're like a pretty nice person to kind of shut that down. But it's something that everyone needs to remember, to just be like, you don't have to make yourself feel uncomfortable just to make someone feel better when like you don't even know what their deal is.
Ladies especially, you should remember that, because we shouldn't have to. I can't tell you how many times Sweetie has got stuck on the train or whatever next to some creepo who decides that she's nice because she like smiled at them. And they'll just go on and talk to her and like, meanwhile I'm like, what? Nope, don't talk to me. And I like shut. I'm just like, there's a wall there, but those nice people, they have a hard time.
Yeah. I feel like that's happening less and less, which I feel like I'm becoming
For you?
a little bit more hardened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't happen to me as much anymore. I'm not as cute and young as I used to be, but
go Neal.
But I think it's just really important to like, you do not have to be put in this position when that person will be fine.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to suffer, but like to make someone else feel better, I guess is like kind of how I would phrase it. Like it's okay. And especially with those travel situations, because like that is really, it's just like you're locked in that space. And it's like, for me on the train, it was always like these fucking people who like wouldn't bring stuff to do on the train. Literally 99 people on this train have a book or music or their phone. And then there's the one guy who's like, well, I didn't bring anything. I'm going to strike up a conversation. And like, yes, I guess we should now in this day and age where you cannot go on public transportation without everybody being on their phone, sort of like be wistful for the days when like, oh, people had conversations on the train. No. When you come to Boston, that is like not something you do. And I'm just going to say that if you ever travel here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's a lot of people's like me time, and like a lot of people.
Or they just had a hard day.
Yeah. Well, it depends if it's the morning or the afternoon, but they're the evening. But yeah. You just you need to, I mean, like the extreme is like reading a book with headphones on is like, definitely do not talk to this bitch being me. But, but people will still, it's mostly like crazies or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, Sweetie gets trapped.
Like I remember this now. Last year, I was reading a book. I was reading the Stevie Nicks biography. And this guy would not fucking stop talking. I'm trying to read this book. That's why I have it. I'm not on this train reading this book so people can talk to me about it.
This happens to Sweetie numerous times because she's like one of only like 3 people who still reads like the actual books, which I love reading real books, but I don't often take them with me on the train just because of this reason, is that it's very visible. Most people have Kindles now or reading things on their phone, so you don't know what other people are reading. Right. But if you see a person with a book, it's very like
Target.
It's very, to use a pun, novel. Yeah. And it's
you're an instant target.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, and they know exactly what you're reading and they want to talk to you about it. So she gets that a lot.
Well, he went from like discussing the book to then like asking where I worked to finding out that I worked at a publishing company to then saying he was like an inventor and then / like had written books, and it was like, oh my God, it was like way out of control. Older? Yeah. Oh. And I was just like, and it was one of those moments where you're like, I think I need to get off early. Like this is not my stop and I'm way far away, which totally sucks. I'm sorry. Like the fact that you have to go that far out of your way and you have to be inconvenienced because someone won't stop talking to you.
Right. But maybe that's like the point of the movie, is that like Del realized he can be a little aggressively friendly or whatever, and Neal realizes he can be an asshole sometimes, and they both like realized that, and then became good friends as a result of that and their experiences. But yeah, go Neal. Really appreciate him. And you know what? He always ends up doing the right thing. And it's not like if he had seen him struggling with his trunk and then like looked at him and gritted his teeth and then pretended not to see him, that would be one thing. But he goes over and helps him carry his trunk. Like he did it. He did the right thing.
He gets redeemed every time. And like I said in the beginning, I don't think these are very similar things that any normal human being would do. No. That you would have a reaction and then you'd think about it and being like, well, that was probably not the right reaction, and then go write it, So I think he's kind of like the perfect character. And Steve Martin does it so well because there is like a great, like real fine line between, he's likable Steve Martin, but he can really like turn into kind of like an angry bastard like pretty quickly. And he did like so great. I mean, he's perfect.
Yeah. Shout out to the weird You're Messing with the Wrong Guy remix song that plays in this. What the fuck is that song? So it's a song that is like, I don't know, originally mixed by John Hughes or something. And it's just like it kind of reminds me of the like Ferris Bueller, like, oh yeah. It's like that kind of like tempo, right? But then you'll just hear, you're messing with the wrong guy.
But then it's like a record skip.
You're messing with the wrong guy.
Wrong guy.
And it's Steve Martin, right? Like that's a line that he says like earlier. It's just like really weird. It takes me out of the movie like completely because I'm like, why is this on the soundtrack already? Like it's very like
all
weird.
the movie does. Whether it was like I said, the like slow jam Phil Collins like feeling song, whether it was like the chase music that was like ding 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 ding
strange
ding
musical choices, I guess, for the most part in this movie. But that song just always cracks me
and just
up.
very 80s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a pretty like staple of most John Hughes movies is that you can't get around like the 80s influence of movies in music in movies and stuff like that, and how they're like, ooh, let's use this newfangled instrument called like the keyboard
Synthesizer. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I love that. What else?
Okay, so the cameos in this, as we said, we already said Kevin Bacon, Matthew Lawrence as the son, Ben Stein cameo.
He's a John Hughes regular.
Yep.
Right?
So he was in Ferris Bueller as like the teacher. Everyone remember that show, Win Ben Stein's Money?
So good.
Remember he was the Visine guy? Got dry eyes?
No one ever won his money. No one ever did it.
That was a hard show.
What was he in this? I missed him. I don't remember.
I can't remember now, but he was in it. Definitely.
Okay.
Here's another cameo, sweetie. You're gonna love.
Yeah.
The Home Alone dangly ones guy. Where was he? Do you remember?
No.
He was the old man who was sitting next to him on the airplane in that row with Del, him, and then he like fell asleep on him.
Oh wow!
Yep.
No lines. Crazy.
No lines.
Crazy.
I know. Again, John Hughes.
Yeah.
Regular.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Any other cameos? Yep.
Yeah.
As we said, the secretary from Ferris Bueller, Michael McKean as the cop. So he is like credited like third billing in this movie, and he's like only in it for like 90 seconds, but it's a good scene
For him.
Yeah, so some goodies like that. But again,
Ferris
like,
Bueller's dad is his
Ferris Bueller's
buddy in the
dad
beginning.
is the
Who's
coworker.
like, "You're never gonna make it on the train or whatever, the plane." So yeah.
I love how him forgetting the gloves was like a foreshadowing of the whole time, because if he had had those gloves, he probably would have been a little bit better off. In the beginning, he's in the elevator. He's like, "Oh shit, I forgot my gloves. Like, can you grab them for me?"
But he has the gloves.
No, he doesn't have gloves.
Because in the back of the truck where that mean dog is hiding under the hay, he's trying to get the gloves.
So I don't think this was in the version we saw, but I think in the TV one, remember Del has 2 pairs of gloves on. And remember, he's like, "Man, my hands are getting sweaty. Do you want these?" It wasn't in
and
the
then
version
he drops
I had.
the glove in the hay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's weird.
Maybe yeah. That's why
really
the dog
weird.
comes out.
The dog
Yeah.
is weird.
And he's like, "Give him the glove."
Why is that dog like hiding? Why is he like is smothered under the hay? Like, is he alive? Also, is that animal cruelty? Like, make your poor dog like sit in the back of this truck when it's winter? Like, I don't know.
When they're like in the back of this truck, so they're like driving. So they get picked up by like Del's buddy's son, who is that guy who's in The Americans. Did you notice? Who, if you ever watch the show The Americans, he's like this scientist spy that like sneaks him all this info on like a dirty bomb or chemical weapon or something, like in the later seasons. Anyway, so he's like quite old in that show. So to see him as like a youngster in this one's pretty funny. And he's like this crazy redneck who keeps being like choking on his chewing tobacco. Anyway, so he's this pickup truck, and they have to sit in the back, and it's like 40 miles or something to the town Steubenville or something where the train comes out of. And it's like freezing. And Neal's like, "How cold do you think it is out here?" And Del's like, 1. It's like so cold.
1.
And they arrive at the train station. They're all white with like icicles on their beards and faces. And like, you know, Steve Martin already has white hair, but with like the icicles on it, he looks like basically like Jack Frost.
We forgot. the lawyer from Jurassic Park is the hotel clerk. Gennaro is the hotel clerk. He's
so creepy.
He's really creepy.
Bizarro Kramer.
Bizarro Kramer is the taxi driver who takes them on like a scenic route to the hotel or something.
Yeah, in Wichita.
I thought there was somebody else too. No, I don't think. Maybe I thought just watching the fishies guy was in it, but maybe I'm imagining that.
Yeah, I don't see him.
I don't think so. Yeah. I just love that, like, all the people that are like credited in like antisocial truck driver who you really don't see, but he has a picture. But yeah, a lot of good cameos. Good cameos.
Okay, just a couple more trivia facts, and we're gonna end with some anecdotes. Anecdotes. So did you know that the scene on the airplane, so the plane that they take from New York to Chicago, or was going to be Chicago, but to Wichita, is the reuse of the airplane set?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Pretty cool.
Cool.
As I said, the tirade of 18 F words in 1 minute done by Steve Martin as he is ranting and raving to the I think it was Marathon car rental maybe. 18 swears in one minute, and took this movie from PG-13 to R. So that's really a shame in a lot of ways, because if you weren't able to see this movie just because there was an extended use of the F word, I always thought that was a bummer.
Yeah, that's probably why we didn't.
Yeah,
never saw it.
But like, that's so annoying, and they shouldn't do that for R-rated movies. That like, oh my god, like there's too many F-bombs in this. Like, you can't see this unless you have an adult with you.
And like you can say shit a couple times, but you say fuck once, you're like, oh, R, slap an R on it.
Yeah, that's so freaking.
I think it has to do with sex. I think it's everybody. It's like a Puritan thing. That's my theory. The word fuck. Why the word fuck and shit are like so differently viewed.
Interesting. Okay, and I mentioned this before, and maybe if you guys have seen this. So in the version that I watched, John Candy, Dell, has a black eye, or like he has been punched in the eye in the last like quarter of this movie. So you don't see it until after their car gets towed. And I didn't remember him getting punched in the eye. Neal gets punched in the face by the taxi driver, but the guy in the taxi stand. But you don't see Dell get punched except in the stomach by Neal. So was there like a deleted scene or something that was not shown where he gets punched by somebody? I don't know.
I thought maybe it was just a longer fight scene between Neal and Dell.
Maybe the taxi driver, the guy in the taxi stand, punches Dell too.
Maybe.
But you just don't see it. And it's like a very visible, like kind of black purple eye ring.
Yeah. Dell, what happened?
Okay, question for you, sweetie. Mm-hmm. What shower curtain would you buy from Dell Griffith?
As earrings or shower curtain?
Well,
rings?
You know how he like kind of says that this is a Diane Sawyer autographed shower curtain ring.
Probably
like,
that
which one would you go
that
bananas for?
Probably, I mean, anything autographed, that's pretty cool.
Isn't it funny the celebrities that he like chose to highlight with the shower curtain rings? It was Diane Sawyer, Walter Cronkite, and then there's like one other one. It was a sports person.
Yeah. Oh,
Daryl Strawberry.
There was one that was like some material I thought sounded pretty cool.
These are filled with helium?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. But it's just like some of them are so obviously shower curtain rings that you're like, come on, girls. Like, and I love the one where he's like, honestly, you look like at least 20 years old. Yeah. Easily. And the girl's like, give him all the money. And like, oh boy.
I mean, it's great. He's a great salesman. I mean, that is a skill he has for sure. All right.
So but I think it is funny, though, that this is the second John Hughes movie where someone has bartered earrings, quote unquote, to get money to travel somewhere. Home Alone is the other one.
Weird.
Yeah.
Quit using that plot device,
dangly ones.
John Hughes. Yeah. Okay, let's end on worst travel stories. What do you got? Do you have a planes, trains, automobiles
I don't
story
have
of your own?
One quite as crazy as this that has, every single thing that could have went wrong. But I have like two. So I have one that sticks out to me, which is a plane we took to Florida. I sat next to this very large woman who was eating nacho cheese Doritos but dipping them in salt in a jar of salsa and then licking her fingers like loudly after like each time she would grab a Dorito, because as we know the cheese sticks to your fingers, whatever. It was so bad, and I was just like appalled by that. So that sticks out. And then a very bad bus. I think I was traveling back from visiting my boyfriend who went to school in New Jersey, and so I had to take a bus from like Jersey to New York and then New York to whatever. But it was Peter Pan bus, and wow, I have never been. I mean, it was like a 7-hour bus ride, like on one of those buses, the worst. So of course I sat. So I forget when somebody told me this trick, but I would always get a window seat, and then the weirdest person on the bus would pick me to sit next to and then like talk to me. So this one guy was like obsessed and like talking to me, and he was like, "What? Do you ever get McDonald's breakfast? Like they're so good." And he had and this is the first time that I realized that McDonald's sells like breakfast plates of like scrambled eggs and pancakes, and I was like, "What the fuck?" But whatever. So then somebody told me, here's a hot tip. Like when you get on the bus, like sit with somebody who looks normal right off the bat. Like don't even try to get a seat to yourself, especially if there's a lot of people that are going to be coming on the bus, because it's better to like pick your seatmate than end up with somebody weird. So those are my two like bad travel stories, but I'm really tame compared to what Sweetie's been through, mostly because you travel a lot more than I do.
I mean, so obviously the odds are against you if you travel a lot, because there's going to be bad times and good times. So I would say in general, my the last couple of years I've had some issues with baggage stuff. I don't know if that counts. So not anything like too bad with flight delays and stuff like that. I've had one like lost baggage, like the bag didn't make it. That was kind of stressful.
Yeah, that's never happened to me. And I have honestly haven't been on that many flights.
Yeah. But I mean, I've flown so much that has only happened to me once. So I feel like that's not bad. But I had basically my own planes, trains, automobiles moment when I went to Ireland to visit our sister in 2017. She just had her baby, and so I was going to see her. She was Ava, our sweet little niece. She was only a month old. So I'm like, okay, I'm going over to Ireland. And I traveled by myself before. Yeah, definitely. But this one was one that for an extended period of time, especially going over. I mean, I was going to meet her as soon as I got to Ireland, but like just getting there by myself. So I remember I go and I didn't eat like dinner, but I had like 2 glasses of wine, and I had like truffled popcorn at the bar.
You didn't eat dinner, but you had 2 glasses of wine?
No, I had wine. I had dinner before like I got to the airport, so I ate early. And then you get fed. I think you get fed even on the plane anyway. So I was like, whatever. So I had this like truffled popcorn, and it was just like not sitting well. So I had to fly to London first. It was so annoying. And then to Dublin. So a smaller flight like to Dublin. So we're trying to land in London, and it's like most turbulent. And again, I've flown a ton, and it was probably the most turbulence I've ever felt in my whole life. The plane was just swaying back and forth. It was so scary. It was so windy. And my stomach picks this moment to be like, you're going to have horrible diarrhea. And I'm like, oh my God. So you cannot get up, because not only is the plane, we were kind of like close to landing, but the turbulence was like insane. So I'm sure that wasn't like helping my stomach. I very nearly pooped my pants on this flight. It was miserable. So I'd survive it. And I'm like, wow, like can't get any worse than that. Right.
So it doesn't get any closer than that.
So I get off the plane, and when you're at Heathrow, like the terminals are so big, you have to take a shuttle to get to like the next one. So I go in line I get on the shuttle, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to poop my pants. And I have to get off the shuttle, go find a bathroom, like poop a bunch, get on the shuttle. I'm feeling very, very ill. The flight is now delayed going to Dublin because of all this like crazy wind and shit like that. So I had booked a bus to take me from where we were. I was going to land in Dublin to where my sister lives near Cork, so the other side of the country. And of course, because this flight was delayed, like I lost my bus reservation. I go to see like, when's the next bus? Literally buses are booked like all fucking day. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get there? So finally I'm like, I go and I take a cab to the train station, and I get on a train, and I am able to like talk to my sister, and she's like, okay, like I'll pick you up. So I like chugged a vodka, like waiting for the train. I had no food all day. I was eating a Snickers bar after the vodka, and I just was like on the plane, like the train cracked out of my mind.
Any food you could eat?
Yeah, I just did. It was just not a lot. There was no places I could like go in and sit down. It was just like I just like didn't have enough time either. So I just got like snacks. So I get there and Liz luckily picks me up, and she had like a bunch of sandwiches ready for me that like Simon had made, and it was just like so nice. And then I got to see the baby, and it was like so great. So that was like phase 1. Phase 2, I'm leaving Ireland to go now visit my friend Rebe in Germany. And my sister like will not drive me to like a bus stop that would like take me like close. So like I had a very like a short layover between when my bus left from Cork to go back to Dublin to get on a plane to go to Germany. So like they wouldn't drive me to a place where the bus would pick me up where like I would have a more of a cushion to like get on this other bus. So basically I had like 5 minutes between when my bus got into Cork to when the next bus left for Dublin. And the bus was stuck in traffic and I fucking missed it. So then there was again no buses, and I already booked a flight out of Dublin. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to miss my flight out of Dublin. And I don't like have my phone. I only have Wi-Fi, and like I couldn't like, I was very spotty. Like I couldn't figure out like how to change my flight and all that stuff. So finally I like was able to book a flight, but like through this like weird third party service. I like wasn't even sure if it was a scam or not, and I didn't even know until I got on, because I was able to take I took a train again back to Dublin, and I didn't even know till I got to Dublin airport whether I had a flight or not. I just like literally was like, okay, I check in and either it's there or not. I arrived like 10 minutes before my flight. I didn't even have time to tell my friend what flight I was on, who was picking me up in Germany. Luckily, she was like smart as anything and just figures out which flights were coming in from Dublin and like knew like when to meet me. And I just get off at the gate and she's just standing there, and I just burst into tears and like right into her arms. It was the most stressful trip of my life. I've never cried so much. It was awful. It was so bad. So learning from that experience, as you always do, always try to have a working phone in a different country. And there's various, people try to cheap out and just be like, oh, I'll just be able to like survive on Wi-Fi. If you're at all traveling by yourself, I would not recommend that. Like get the fucking phone plan, pay for it. And just try to like book your stuff so you don't have to stress about that. Do not ever leave like so short of time in between, like when your bus gets in to when the next bus gets in and stuff like that. Cause just to add that extra stress, travel is stressful already. To add all that, like, oh my God, almost missed my flight. Like all this shit is just the worst. So yeah, that's what I've learned. And I've been pretty good about it. So I'm going to Ireland again, for our sister's pregnant again, is going to have a new baby. So I'm going to go and I'm going to be by myself again. So I'm trying to like remember what happened on that like dreadful trip.
Just don't take any shortcuts. Just get the thing, the whatever.
I'm going to like stay at a hotel and like just chill out and not have to have this like hustle.
Rush. Yeah.
Because the thing is when you travel when you're young and you're by yourself and you're like, okay, I don't have any money and I'm like trying to save stuff, like save money and all this. But like if you have the money, like fucking don't use that money to put yourself at ease, because that stuff is just insane. You're a different country and you don't know where like anybody there to help you. Like, whoa. So yeah, that's what I've learned. And I hope that's what Neal learned too.
Probably both learned a lot, a hell of a lot. But yeah, that's our travel segment. So, yeah, good times. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hopefully if you are traveling, you aren't in a mess. Like Neal and Del were, or like Sweetie was in Ireland. All the best to you. Happy Thanksgiving Day back. And come and talk to us on Twitter at The Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you, as always, for listening. Bye.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving, Ray Burgess. Bye.